doesn't need to restart.
All right, before we get started in Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear Venerable Teacher, dear Sangha, good afternoon. We are continuing our discussion on the Dhammapada. We are still on the first chapter. We are almost done. So today we will be covering verses 15 through 18, but I will be specifically or emphasizing the last two, since they are all pretty similar. Okay, no one's fairly new here, so I'm not going to repeat what the Dhammapada is, but I typically have my little cheat sheet for you to scan to go with the verses with me, but I forgot it. But if you still have that link from last time, feel free to bring it up, since it's my own translation, so it's going to be different than what you would typically find. So I'll read the 4 verses today, and then we'll only have 2 more before we finish the first chapter. And this first chapter is called the Twin Verses, the Yamaka. So each 2 verses are companions. So there's like an opposite. There's a positive and negative to each of the 2, every 2. So anyway, so I'll read the verses, and then again, I'm only going to emphasize the last 2, 17 and 18, to give the story of the verse, and then of course we'll go through the commentary. So I'll read verses 15 through 18. I think it's 15 through 18. Yes. Okay, so the verses go. The evildoer suffers in this world, and he suffers in the next. He suffers in both. He suffers and is afflicted when he sees the impurity of his own deeds. The virtuous man delights in this world, and he delights in the next. He delights in both. He delights and rejoices when he sees the purity of his own deeds. The evildoer suffers in this world, and he suffers in the next. He suffers in both. He suffers when he thinks of the evil he has done. He suffers more when he is going on the evil path. The virtuous man is happy in this world, and he is happy in the next. He is happy in both. He is happy when he thinks of the good deeds he has done. He is still more happy when going on the good path. So I'm going to skip the stories for the first 2 verses, and just give the stories for the second, or the third and fourth. So the verse 17, the evildoer suffers in this world, and he suffers in the next, and he suffers in both. This verse was given during the Buddha's time when one of his disciples, Devadatta, he was also the Buddha's cousin. And they were pretty much the same age, and they grew up together, and they were always competing. Well, at least Devadatta was always competing, because he knew that Siddhartha, the Buddha, was always better than him at pretty much everything he did. Siddhartha was better at learning, he was better at debating, he was better at fencing and horse riding, and debate and all these other things. So he's always better. And so when Siddhartha left the home life and started becoming a monk, and when he finally became enlightened and became the Buddha, he saw how people were revering him, right? They saw how people were respecting him. They would give him alms, they would give him offerings, they asked for his guidance, etc. So he was he was jealous at the attention that the Buddha was getting. And so out of jealousy and out of the desire to essentially ruin the Buddha's life, he left his life and became a monk. Of course, he became a monk for wrong reasons, but he became a monk regardless. And so after a while, he actually was a fairly decent monk. He was pretty well practiced, even though his intentions were ill-advised and unwholesome. But eventually, there came a point where they were in the assembly, and the Devadatta kind of stood up, and he was like, respected teacher, you're getting old, you should let me take over the order of the monks, of the bhikshus. And the Buddha was like, you're kidding, right? Like, that's not going to happen. Who do you think you are? You're unworthy to take my place. And so he asked the senior monks to admonish him and kind of reprimand him for saying such a defensive thing. And then later on, he even got up and told the Buddha that his precepts, that the rules that the monks were following were too lenient. He wanted stricter precepts for the monks to follow. And he gives 5 specific ones, and I can't exactly remember all of them exactly, but one of them was to only dwell in the woods, right? To only live under a tree. So at the time, they were able to build monasteries and live in huts and live in the near villages. And so Devadatta was like, no, let's just only live in the woods. And another one was to only use old, used, ragged cloth to make robes. And at the time, that was still a thing, but the Buddha allowed the monks to accept new cloth as an offering, and use that cloth to make robes. And there was a few others I can't exactly remember, but the Buddha was like, but why? What's the reasoning of these? And Devadatta was trying to say that you're just too lenient, that the monks are not disciplined enough in their practice to become enlightened. And the Buddha was like, you're not even enlightened. Like, why are you telling other people how to become enlightened? And so, because he declined the request, Devadatta was eager. His next attempt was to break up the Sangha, which is one of the I forgot what it's called, but it's something that you don't do, basically, right? You can't. It's a no-no. It's a big no-no to try to break up the Sangha. And so he took most of the newly ordained monks with him, and were like, you should follow me because I am a better teacher. I'm more stricter than the Buddha. You should come with me and follow me. So he took a big chunk of these newly ordained novices with him. And so then 2 of the Buddha's main disciples, Shariputra and Moggallana, were like, I'm going to go with Devadatta. And Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, was saddened. He was like, why are you believing that crazed monk? And like, it's because we want to. And so they went, but they went because they didn't want to be on Devadatta's side, right? So when Devadatta saw them coming, like, oh look, Shariputra and Moggallana agree with me. They've come to join our new Sangha. And so Devadatta was like, you know what, I'm going to go take a nap. Shariputra and Moggallana, please go ahead and teach the monks. I'm going to go sleep. So while he was sleeping, Shariputra and Moggallana used that time to convince all the monks that Devadatta was wrong, and in the wrong, they should follow him back to the true teacher, back to the Buddha. And so they did. This caused Devadatta to be extremely upset and angry, and so he vowed to revenge against the Buddha. And so he attempted to kill the Buddha 3 times. In the first attempt, he hired assassins to kill the Buddha, but instead of killing the Buddha, these assassins actually ordained and became his disciples. The second attempt, that Devadatta was attempting to push or roll down a large rock from a cliff, right, to kind of just squish the Buddha. But he only was able to injure just the toe of the Buddha. So there's a shed of blood, a little bit of blood that was shed. The third attempt that Devadatta used was to release a wild elephant toward the Buddha. This elephant was pretty well known that this elephant is pretty chaotic and will destroy anything that's in its path. And so the Buddha was sitting in meditation, saw the elephant coming, but because he was the Buddha, he just shined this energy of loving kindness and compassion toward the elephant, and the elephant became docile and just kind of stopped and actually bowed to the Buddha and sat down. And so because of all these attempts to kill, Devadatta, of course, was like, you're literally trying to kill the Buddha. Like, you don't do that in life, right? So after a while, Devadatta didn't live at the same monastery the Buddha did. But after a few years, he became very ill and was on his deathbed. And so his final wish was to go see the Buddha, because on his deathbed, he realized the negativity and the unwholesomeness that he's created with all his actions of trying to defeat the Buddha. And so he kind of came into a sense of regret and wanted to apologize and repent those mistakes. And so he had some of his disciples carry him and take him to the Buddha. But on his way, he wanted to stop by a river or lake to get something to drink. And as Devadatta stood up off the couch, the bed that he was laying on, that he was being carried on, as soon as he stepped foot onto the ground, according to the stories, the ground swallowed him, and he was sent to the hell realm, because he was just a terrible person. And so he died before he was able to see the Buddha. And so when the monks that were taking Devadatta to see the Buddha told him that Devadatta passed away, this is when he gave this verse. And again, the verse goes, "The evildoer suffers in this world and he suffers in the next. He suffers in both. He suffers when he thinks of the evil he has done. He suffers more when going to the evil path." So luckily, even though it took Devadatta's entire life to recognize his mistake, or his mistakes, many mistakes, and his many attempts to kill the Buddha and to try to take over the Sangha, to try to be the ultimate monk, because he wanted control, he wanted power, right? That was his main objective, was to gain the respect and the power that the Buddha had that others were giving him. But the Buddha did not gain that respect or that power by force or by convincing people, right? He didn't have to convince anybody of anything that he was trying to teach. He didn't have to convince anyone that he was enlightened. He didn't have to convince anyone that he was that he had true Dharma, true knowledge, right? He simply was as he was. All he did was teach, and he showed by example those things that he was trying to help others do, right? And so there was no effort in trying to convert anyone or try to persuade people on his path. He simply just taught, and he showed people, and people became enlightened on their own. So that was the power the Buddha had. But Devadatta didn't understand that, right? Because Devadatta didn't have good intentions. His entire life, his only intention was to gain popularity, to gain power, to gain wealth and reputation. And so he's been on the evil path his entire time. And so all his evil doings in this life were to no avail, right? He failed. And in his next life, he literally went to hell. Hell, right? And so, the Buddha was telling that he was suffering this life and he's suffering the next because of your evil actions. So it's a reminder of us that our own evil actions are the same, right? These 4 verses, their main moral of their story, of the verses, is about karma, cause and effect, right? Karma is not this made-up entity. It's not an entity on its own. Karma is just the natural way of life. It's cause and effect, right? No one's giving you and taking away karma. No one's giving you karma points and taking away karma points, right? No one's keeping tally. The universe has its own tally system, but no one's giving and taking for you. It's a natural law of things. You do good, you receive good. You do bad, you get bad. It's common knowledge if you look at it with an open mind. And it's done in everyday life. If you go to school, if you're studying well and you are focused and concentrated, clearly you're going to do well in school. You get good grades and you pass, you get a degree. If you don't study, you don't do well, you don't do anything, and you slack off and be lazy, you get no results, right? You do bad, you flunk out. Karma, good and bad, right? You're doing good, you get good. You do bad, you do bad. So no one's forcing, no one's giving or taking. This is all on you. So you are in the control of your own evil actions or good actions. And then the next verse is literally about the opposite. The next verse is about Anathapindika. Anathapindika is one of the Buddha's main lay disciples. He was very rich. Anathapindika literally means benefactor. Benefactor of giving. So when we recite the Amitabha Sutra, for instance, the very first part is benefactor of orphans in the solitary, right? They're in the park of the benefactor of orphans in the solitary. This is Anathapindika's park. This is his park that he bought for the Buddha. Anyway, so that story goes that he had 3 daughters. This is one of the Buddha's main lay disciples. So he visited the Buddha and got teachings from him on a daily basis. He gave offerings, gave him alms, and all 3 daughters did the same thing. And so they were all realized. They all came to the realization of Sotapadana, which is the first level of enlightenment. All 4 of them, right? The father and the 3 daughters. And so he would always invite the Buddha and some of the disciples over to the house to give alms, to offer food, right? And so throughout the years, it was always the oldest daughter's responsibility to tend to the monks and to the Buddha and the monks, right? But then she got married, and so she moved out of the house. And then there was the second daughter's responsibility to do the same, right? And so she got married and she left the house. At this point, they all attained the first level of enlightenment, Sotapadana. And then the third daughter was the same. And because the third daughter never got married during her time, she was able to spend more time with the Buddha and spend more time listening to the Dharma. And so she actually attained the second stage of enlightenment, Sakadagamin, the non-returner. And so one day she fell really ill and she was dying. She was still pretty young, but she was dying. And so she called out for her father, and she called out to her father as little brother. And so the father was kind of anxious and kind of taken aback. He's like, oh no, she's dying, she's delusional, she doesn't know who I am, she's calling me little brother. And then she unfortunately died shortly after. And so because the father thought that she was delusional or she was crazy, he was worried about her rebirth or where she was going to be reborn. And so he went to the Buddha and voiced his concern and told them, Lord Buddha, my youngest daughter has just died, and he was crying, and he's like, why are you crying? You know that death is the natural process of life, and you know all that. And he was like, no, I understand that. What I'm upset about is that she called me little brother. And the Buddha was like, yes, that's right, you are her little brother. And so he was like, what? Now I'm confused for real. So the Buddha was like, well, she called you little brother because she has a higher attainment than you do. She's a Sakadagamin. She's a non-returner. She has a second level of enlightenment. You are only a Sotapadana, first level of enlightenment. And so she technically is higher than you, so you are her little brother. And so he kind of calmed down and was assured that she was reborn in Tushita heaven. Tushita is the heavenly realm where all the Buddhas are born. This is where Maitreya Buddha is, or the future Buddha. This is where the Buddha's mother is. And so she's in a heavenly realm, right? She's a non-returner. She'll no longer return as a human. So once he assured the father of that, that's when he gave the verse. that the virtuous man is happy in this world and he is happy in the next. Well, actually, idhanandati pichakanandati. So it's actually it's referencing a female verbs here. So it's or pronouns. So the virtuous she, but I wrote man because to keep everything consistent. But anyway, the virtuous man is happy in this world and he is happy in the next. He is happy in both. He is happy when he thinks of the good he has done, and he is somewhat more happy when going on the good path. So this is literally the opposite of the other verse, right? Knowing that when we do good things in life, that we will receive good things. And this is still a teaching on karma, right? But every once in a while people are like, oh, but there's so many bad people in the world who have great lives, and there's so many good people in the world who have terrible lives. Well, yes, but that's also karma. There's a karma bucket. There's a hierarchy of how things come to be according to causes and conditions, right? So you may be a great person in life with terrible circumstances, but that's only because the goodness that will happen to you, the conditions for those to arise have not yet come, right? And sometimes we'll see this a lot in meditation. So when you're meditating and you truly are meditating correctly, right? You're taking away all the bad things in life. You're you're eliminating, pieces of your life that are suffering, and then all of a sudden something huge happens, right? Something maybe that's just causing you such distress or such unhappiness in life. That's only because it was buried underneath all the smaller sufferings in life, right? So that big suffering now has the opportunity, has the cause and the conditions to arise and cause even more suffering, right? And so people are like, oh no, this is bad. Why am I meditating? Meditation is supposed to do the opposite. But actually it's kind of a good thing, because once it arises and once you take care of it and realize it and be able to eradicate it, now you have that big bad karma taken away, right? So you don't have to worry about it in a future time, in a future life. And so a lot of people, I hear a lot of stories, I'm like, oh, I'm meditating, and all of a sudden, I'm taking these things out, I'm bettering my life, I'm, taking out bad people or bad situations and circumstances and relationships, but now all of a sudden this huge bad thing happened. Like now everything in life is wrong. Everything's going the wrong way. Like, yeah, because it was stuck, it was buried underneath all the rubble of all the smaller crap that's been piling up throughout your lives or lifetimes, right? So now that you're meditating and you're actually picking away and doing what you're supposed to be doing correctly, now this huge thing had the opportunity to arise, right? So when that happens, people usually get discouraged, they get scared, they want to back off, they want to try to bury it back, but you don't want to do that, right? You want to pull out those weeds. You don't want to bury it back up, because if you bury it back up, then it'll still arise eventually, right? You're not doing anything, you're only suppressing it. You're not taking care of it. You're not taking care of it. So don't get scared if that happens to you, right? It happens to all of us. It will happen no matter what. Don't what's what I'm looking for. Don't run away, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't run away from problems. I know sometimes it feels like it's the easiest thing to do is to run away, but usually it's not. Running away just means that you're pushing it back. You're wanting to tackle it at a different time. Distress happens in life, a loss, anything happens or arises. You're like, no, I don't want to handle it right now. I'm going to push it away and I'll worry about it next time. right? And then it comes up again, or push away, and come back to it next time. It rises again, or push away, you come back to it next time. Well, all you're doing is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? You're going back and forth, and you're just digging a deeper hole for it to settle in. You're just adding layers to it, right? You're literally just, because what are you going to do? If I rub this hard enough, I'm eventually going to be able to cut right through it, right? It's the same, that's what we do with a lot of our situations in life, a lot of our distresses, a lot of our anxieties, or depressions, or anger, or hatred. All we're doing is cutting instead of polishing. It's not easy, obviously. It's not easy in the sense that it's something we don't want to do. It's depressing, it's sad, it's frustrating. But unless we are able to confront those situations, confront those negative feelings, confront those emotions, and really be able to see where they're coming from and why they're coming up, all we're doing is pushing them down. We're just burying them deeper and deeper in a hole. What we need to do, instead of digging that hole, is to fill the hole. And the only way we can fill that hole is with wisdom, with concentration, with morality, right? I'm going to stop there. So as we go through life, and as you go through situations in life, and you are trying to make decisions, for example, the reason we emphasize mindfulness and meditation so often is because we are reactionary beings. We react on impulse without thinking, without objectively looking at the situation. We're very subjective in the majority of our situations in life. Someone's yelling at you, our first impulse is to yell back, is to get angry. Someone's cursing us out, we're going to curse them back. Someone's trying to head us, we're going to try to head back. Right? We're reactionary. But what does that even do to you? What does that help? How does that help? Does it help? One of the first verses of this chapter, chapters 3 and, verse 3 and 4. He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. And those who harbor such thoughts, hatred will never cease. He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. And those who do not harbor such thoughts, hatred will cease. For hatred does not cease by hatred at any time. Hatred ceases by love. This is an old rule. And so when we're in situations of anger, frustration, jealousy, even any pleasurable situations, we need to think of it objectively. Come to the realization, what is this? Someone's yelling at you, and you're feeling those emotions. You're feeling something arising, right? When someone's arguing with us or yelling at us, we can already feel our bodies tense up. We can feel our bodies heat up. Sometimes we start sweating, we start getting red, we start getting angry, right? Ask yourself, what is this? It's not, I'm getting angry because they're yelling at me. They're yelling at you, so what? These are words. What are words going to do to you? Hurt your feelings? No. Words cannot do anything to you. You're not getting angry because they're yelling at you. You're getting angry because you're allowing what they're saying to you to anger you. You're not offended because what they're saying to you is offensive. You're offended because what they are saying to you, you're allowing what they're saying to you to be offended. One of the rules I always tell you about the offense part is if someone's trying to insult you or offend you, ask yourself, is it true? Yes or no? If someone's trying to offend you and you ask yourself, is it true? Yes, it's true. Okay, it's true. Why are you angry? Why are you offended? No, it's not true. Okay, it's not true. Why are you offended? Why are you angry? You're offended, you're angry because your ego is there trying to defend itself, saying, oh no, I'm not what they're saying I am. I'm not what they're calling me. I'm better than this. I'm better than that. I'm better than them. Says who? You? So we emphasize mindfulness so that we can go through these situations mindfully, objectively, slowly, so that we can analyze where these emotions are coming from, why they're arising, where they're coming from. Right? We kind of have to be like our own PR agent here, right? When you write I forget what it's called. A news release thingy, right? It's like who, what, where, and why. Exactly the same questions you ask yourself. Minus the who, because you know who it is, but what is it? Why is it? Where is it coming from? And once we're able to analyze and get those questions, those answers, and see where it's coming from and why it's coming from, then sometimes you can laugh at yourself like, oh, that's so dumb. Like, it makes no sense. That's so childish. That's so mundane. That's so whatever. And you can laugh at yourself and just move on. One of the pillars of Buddhism is dana, generosity. Dana is, generosity is a good translation, but it's more correct to say giving up. Because when you give generosity, when you're giving, in the Buddhist sense, you give without the expectation to receive. You give without the expectation of recognition, of thanks, of whatever, right? You're giving up something freely without any need or want of a return, whether it's a return in gift, a return in praise, a return in thanks, none of that. So dana is giving up. So it's the same thing us. We have to be generous with ourselves too. And so we also have to give up the anger, give up the hostility, give up the self-doubt, the self-hatred, self-anger. All these are obstacles in our own life. You cannot be happy with these obstacles. And so when you're able to recognize those obstacles, see them for what they are, and recognize that they are defilements, mental defilements. And once we're able to eradicate those, then you have a freer mind. We think of enlightenment as this huge aha moment, this fireworks show, right? There's a halo, we have wings, we have things sprouting out. That's not enlightenment. I mean, it could be, but it's not. Enlightenment is taking one pebble of suffering out of your mind at a time. One little piece at a time. I'm going to pick on Matt a little bit. He tells me he wants to save the world. I'm like, it's not your job to save the world. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. How can you save the world if you can't save yourself first? How can you save the outside if you can't save the inside first? How can you save your country if you can't save your community first? How can you save the world if you can't save your country first? So we've agreed that we have to start small. So don't come here to Buddhism or to meditation, to temple, and expect, I'm going to read this book, I'm going to read several books, I'm going to meditate a few times, I'm going to come and land. That doesn't happen. It's very difficult to see changes in yourself. It is. But that's not the point. You'll see those changes over time, but others will see those changes much quicker than you'll see them in yourself. Others will recognize that you're much calmer, that you're less aggressive, you're less impulsive, right? And after a while, you'll be able to recognize your own reaction is not as hostile as it used to be. It's not as aggressive as it used to be. It's not as direct as it used to be. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, this is working after all. Okay, now I'm really going to stop. What questions do you have? Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that really stood out to me that you shared is how we fill that hole with wisdom and meditation. The question that I have is, sometimes I feel like that hole gets filled, but now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I feel like maybe it's just been a superficial cover that's on it, and it's not really been filled. And I always come back to this point in my life where I feel like there is a hole within me, and I don't know how to fill it. So could you maybe give us some examples of what causes that and how to fill it?
I cannot tell you that. That's not my hole for you to tell you how to fill it. You'll have to find that through your own self-discovery. But I will tell you, a lot of times that people will put a Band-Aid on these holes, right? And this Band-Aid is typically drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, right? Most of us know that. And it's a Band-Aid because after it's done, what do you feel? You feel like crap. You're hungover, you're distressed, you're drained, you're back to square one. So clearly that Band-Aid is not helping. And sometimes it's not important to fill the hole, right? Sometimes the hole is going to be a scar. There's no covering it up. Sometimes those scars are going to be there. There's no easy way out to fill the void. It's not always a bad thing, right? We all have scars. We all have traumas. But it's what you do with it. It's how you learn from it. It's what you're able to help provide yourself and to others with your experience and with your knowledge of what created the hole in the first place, right? So I can tell you what created it, why it's there. I can't tell you how to fill it. If you can fill it, I can't tell you what to do. What I can tell you is you can find all those answers through meditation, through self-contemplation, through self-discovery. And you may already know, for the most part, how the hole came about. You may know why it's still there. You may want it to be filled, but don't make that a priority. Don't think, I have to fill this hole. You don't. Maybe it just needs to heal over and become a scar. But now you have something, you have an experience that you can learn from and know from and help others that may have gone through the same experiences as you. We all have scars. Some are bigger than others. Some are deeper than others. Some are visible, some are not. But those scars are opportunities to learn and self-discover. So don't think of them necessarily as bad. They can be helpful. Does that answer suffice?
Yes, thank you.
What other questions do you have? Concerns? Emotional outbursts? I see some emotional outbursts already, so I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
So I started this journey about 2 years ago, and I've changed there, but I'm like, where is there? I've done everything that I wanted to do and I'm happy with myself. Where am I really trying to get? I don't know.
That's a good question. Also, congratulations. Part of our unfortunate society is this idea that we have a purpose in life. Like, oh, what's my purpose in life? Right? And they try to go soul search for the purpose in life. That's such a terrible thing to think, personally. Oh, well, what's my purpose in life? I have no purpose, or this is my purpose, or that is my purpose. Says who, first of all? Saving the world. It's my purpose in life. Says who? But I can't tell you what that is. Purposes don't make sense to me. If you're saying to help people is my purpose, that's great. You don't have to go big to help people. You don't have to run 5,000 charity events to help people. You don't have to raise billions of dollars to help people. You don't have to give material things to help people, right? You help people by many means, by being there for them, by being an ear to listen to, a shoulder to cry on, to just walk down the road with, to laugh with, to have coffee with, right? So we don't think of that your life purpose should be something grand and spectacular, right? It's not. It shouldn't be. Because otherwise, if you do achieve it, let's say you do successfully run an organization and you've have all these charity events and you've done everything you need to do, like, okay, well, I did my purpose. Is that it? You're still not going to be fulfilled. You're still not going to feel a sense of accomplishment. Even though you've done everything you said you were going to do. You've raised the funds. You've created the organizations. You've did the charities. You've helped billions of people. Okay, then what? Right? What's next? Aliens? That'd be great. Let me know when they contact you because I want to be there. But the point is that's another question I can answer because it's your personal journey, not mine. What you can do, the answer is the same, is to meditate on it. Not to meditate on what should I do next or where life is going, but to meditate on the present conditions in life, right? We're not perfect beings. You may have accomplished and succeeded in all the goals you've put out for yourself, and you said, okay, I've done this, I've checked all these marks off, but you're still not a perfect person, right? We still have things we need to fix, right? We still have opportunities and character flaws and personality flaws and work flaws that we have to fix. And so work on those things, right? Just because something, let's say you're a recovering addict, because that's a good example. You're a recovering addict, and you're sober and you're clean for 10, 5, 20,000 years. Just because you're sober for 20,000 years doesn't make you a saint. What can you do with that sobriety to help others? What can you do to help others get in the same situation as you? Right? So now you've completed the goals for yourself. Now help others complete those goals too. That could be your path. You've done all you can do for yourself as of right now, right? You look very seemingly young, so you still have probably 60, 70 years ahead of you to accomplish life goals. So don't think that you're complete. Don't think that this is it. It's not it. There's still a literal world out there that's going to attack you. And you have to know how to defend yourself in those attacks. And we defend ourselves by mentally creating mental barriers via meditation. So you can ask yourself in meditation, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? What needs to be done? What will give me a sense of what's the next level of accomplishment that I can task myself with? You may have finished focusing on yourself, but now focus on others. Help someone else achieve the same goals that you've achieved for yourself. Don't be selfish. That's all I can say about that. Does that make sense?
I think I basically got make sure to continue just experiencing living life in between the city goals.
Yes. Now that you've accomplished goals, for instance, right? Most people are most people live in the past more often than they should. And then they live in the future more often than they should, right? So now they're troubled with past anxiety, past regrets, and they're troubled with future anxieties. But something's already happened and something hasn't happened yet. So why are we troubling ourselves when the trouble's right here, right now? So use that opportunity to actually open your eyes, to listen, to help, to breathe. That's what I can say. Help. Help others. That should be your life goal. That should be everyone's life goal. Help others. Okay, I have time for one more small question, if there's any. How do you suffer in the next life?
Yes, because further verses, evil, whatever term you use, person will suffer in the next life. Obviously, if you were reincarnated into one of the hell realms, then I assume that you would suffer because they're all vice versa, so you grow. If you are reborn into a cockroach, maybe, but how do you suffer in the next life?
By suffering. I don't know your question. The same way you suffer in this life, you'll suffer in the next life. Suffering is universal. It's not personal.
So if you were born some type of animal, that animal's going to suffer?
Do animals not suffer? When an animal is giving birth, does it not suffer? When the animal is dying, does it not suffer? If it's starving, if it's thirsty, does it not suffer? Right? So there's suffering. Don't think of suffering as we've talked about this already. Suffering is not something that I'm going to punch you in the face and that hurts. Someone stabs you, that hurts. That's not the kind of suffering the Buddha is teaching us. This is the mental suffering. This is the suffering the self-suffering that we bring on ourselves. Someone's offending you, someone's calling you names. Them doing that, them calling you names, them offending you is not what causes you suffering. It's you that's taking it personally that's causing the suffering. You're allowing those words to offend you. You're allowing those words to hurt you. You're allowing those words to hurt your feelings. The words themselves have no power. You give it power. By giving it power, you allow yourself to either suffer or be happy. Of course, there's actual suffering, like torment and stabbing and giving birth and dying. Those are physical sufferings, but that's not the majority of the suffering of our life, right? We're not always giving birth. We're not always dying. I mean, we are, but the process of dying, I mean. We're not always getting stabbed. We're not always getting punched in the face, right? But we're always mentally suffering. We're always getting hurt. Feelings hurt. We're always feeling depressed. We're always feeling sad. We're always feeling angry. We're always feeling this and that and this and that. Not suffering this life, not suffering the next. The only way to escape it is enlightenment. And meditation. Okay, I will stop there. I do want to mention that, before I forget, December 4th, we're going to be celebrating an auspicious day. We're going to do a double celebration on that day. So we're going to be celebrating both our teacher, Venerable Abbott's continuation day, his birthday, and the anniversary of the temple, 15th year anniversary. So it's going to be a special occasion. That's December 4th. This is Sunday, 12:30. During that process, I am creating a magazine of some sort to showcase some of our teachings, some of our Dharma talks. The teacher and then I wrote some poems in there. There's lots of pictures throughout the years, and then just a basic history and progress of our temple for the past 15 years. To help aid those printing efforts, because it's expensive apparently, we are seeking sponsorship for the printing. And so Bin Nun has let me know that if you'd like to sponsor a print, it's $20 per sponsorship. And that will help give us the ability to share the knowledge and the wisdom in those teachings to everyone. So if you'd like to do that, you can do that online, or you can speak to me in person. But that's going to be exciting. And it's right around the corner. It's the weekend before our retreat. Our retreat's on the 10th. Yes, right? Yes. That's going to be exciting. I expect everyone to be there. Okay. We will go ahead and transfer the merit and then go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. General Service, page 7. Speech and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful brings me back to my true home. Gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our careful effort, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripen. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetful and realize our true home. Sense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place. Auspicious clouds appear, our sincere intention thus fulfilling. Incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva, great Bodhisattvas. To the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely sung throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of entities and 3 periods of time. The fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, Maitreya, honored future Buddha, Manjushri, great wisdom, Bodhisattva, soul, great conduct, Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattvas, and the mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. To Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion, Bodhisattva, great strength, Bodhisattva, earth store, great vow, Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea-like Bodhisattvas. More great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Natrayaya Tasya Namaskritva Himamarya Valokiteshvararam Dava Namo Narakendi Hri Mahavaswami Sarvarhatu Shubham Hashiyam Sarva Sattva Namo Vastava Namo Bhagama Vitatu Tadyatha Om Avaloke Lokate Karati Hiri Mahabodhisattva Sarva Sarva Manamada Mahi Mahi Hridayam Koro Koro Karmam Doro Doro Vishati Mahavishati Dara Dara Dirini Shvaraya Chala Chala Mama Vimala Muktalehi Ahi Shina Shina Asham Rashari Vishva Vishvam Rashaya Holo Holo Mara Holo Holo He Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Bodhi Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Narakindi Vishanina Vayamana Swaha Siddhaya Swaha Mahasiddhaya Swaha Siddhayogi Shvaraya Swaha Narakindi Swaha Maranara Swaha Sira Simha Mukaya Swaha Sarva Mahasiddhaya Swaha Chakra Siddhaya Swaha Padma Kasaya Swaha Narakindi Bhagalaya Swaha Mavari Sankaraya Swaha Namo Ratnatrayaya Namo Harya Valokite Swaha Om Siddhyanto Mantra Padaya Swaha is bringing morning light in concentration. My heart is at peace. A half smile is born on my lips. This is a new day, and I vow to go through in mindfulness. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha diligent, bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamuni Buddhaya Namo Shakyamuni Buddhaya Namo Shakyamuni Buddhaya. Found and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni two are both by nature empty, therefore the communication between is inexpressibly perfect. Our practice center is the net of Indra, reflecting all Buddhas everywhere, as my own person reflects in all Buddhas to whom life I go for refuge. Light in the 10 directions, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude. And living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion, Shakyamuni Buddha, the awakened, to whom we bow in gratitude. Through ignorance awakening our hearts and our minds, Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of great understanding, to whom we bow in gratitude. Mindfully working joyfully for the sake of all beings, Samantabhadra, the Bodhisattva of great action, to whom we in gratitude. To suffering serving beings in countless ways, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, to whom we bow in gratitude. Awakening and loving kindness in children, sprouts, and all beings, Maitreya, the Buddha to be, to whom we bow in gratitude. The way fearlessly and compassionate to lead the stream of all our ancestral teachers, to whom we bow in gratitude. Is deep and lovely, we now have a chance to see it and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the discourse of Prajna Paramita, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill-being. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than. The same is true with feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing. Therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, no perception nor mental formation, nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no attainment. The Bodhisattvas ground in Prajna Paramita find no obstacles for their minds, having no obstacles. Come fear liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore one should know that perfect understanding is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible mantra. Prajna Paramita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgat Swaha Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. Invoke your name, Avalokiteshvara. We aspire to learn your way of listening in order to help relieve the suffering in the world. You know how to listen in order to understand. We invoke your name in order to practice listening with all our attention and open-hearted. We will sit and listen without any prejudice. We will sit and listen without judging or reacting. We will sit and listen in order to understand. We will sit and listen so attentively that we will be able to hear what sin is saying and also what is being left unsaid. We know that just by listening deep, we already alleviate a great deal of pain and suffering in the other person. Your name, Manjushri, we aspire to learn your way, which is to be still and to look deeply into the heart of things, and in the hearts of people we will look with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will look unprejudiced eyes. We will look without judging or reacting. We will look deeply so that we will be able to see and understand the roots of suffering through the impermanent and selfless nature of all that. We will practice your way of using the sword of understanding to cut through the bonds of suffering, thus freeing ourselves and other species. Invoke your name, Samantabhadra. We aspire to practice your vow to act with the eyes and heart of compassion, to bring joy to one person in the morning and to ease the pain of one person in the afternoon. We know that happiness of others is our own happiness. Practice joy on the path of service. We know that every word, every look, and every smile bring happiness to others. We know that if we practice wholeheartedly, we ourselves may become an inexhaustible source of peace and joy for our loved ones and for all species. Your name, Shittigarbha, we aspire to learn your way of being present where there is darkness, suffering, oppression, and distress, so we can bring light, hope, relief, and liberation to determined not to forget about or abandon those in desperate situations. Establish contact with those who cannot find a way out of their suffer, those whose cries for help, justice, equality, and human rights are not being heard. We know hell can be found in many places on earth. We will do our best not to contribute to creating more hells on earth and to help transform the hells that already exist. We will practice in order to realize the qualities of perseverance and stability. Like the earth, we can always be supportive and faithful to those in need.
We bow together the three rivers.
Refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. In the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world, dwelling in the refuge of Dharma. I learn to open any doors, the path of transformation, dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Take refuge in the Dharma, in myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of myself, I ask to help all people build fourfold communities, to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Citing the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limit. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the